Hi Jax, welcome back to Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. How are you today?
I'm Craig Gillespie, how are you?
Very, very good. What are we spoiling today, Jax?
This episode, we're doing Cruella.
Alright Jax, in 1 minute, let me know what you thought of Cruella.
Cruella is one of the most insane, crazy, hilarious movies that I have seen in a very long time. I kind of can't believe that it exists, and I bloody love it. It is like an 80s punk rock, Devil Wears Prada, look at my dresses versus kind of an old versus new, mentor versus student kind of fashion dress off. But it's also like a heist movie with heist shenanigans all the time, and Cgi Dogs and her pals have all got this Oliver Twist kind of poor taking from the rich Robin Hood kind of thing going on, but it's all disguised under this crazy idea that Disney had where they're like, we're going to do a prequel to our most loathsome villain, our puppy murdering into a dress. Her only like character trait that anybody remembers from any of it is that she wants to skin puppies alive. And so they're like, all right, we're gonna humanize her. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna make you love Cruella, a character that is just despicable in every way. And by doing that, they do a prequel, but then it's kind of just a spin-off vaguely about it because it's not about that at all. And spoilers, the only single moment they're like, well, maybe this is why she skins Dalmatians, is because her mother is murdered by Dalmatians, kicked off a goddamn bridge into a fucking ocean by Dalmatians, which is the single funniest, amazing, most insane moment I have seen on TV for a very long time. And because of that single moment, I love this movie. Cruella is awesome. I love it.
I actually did let you know when the minute had passed, but I don't think you heard me, and I really didn't want to interrupt, so
sorry.
That'll be our first 2-minute long review at the opening of the episode.
That's how much I love Cruella, Keiran. That's Great. How much I love it.
No, don't get me wrong. Great job.
All right, Cruella, Disney's Cruella. 1 minute or 2 minutes. Sorry. What did you think?
I thought it had no right being as good as it was. And that's not to say that it's a great film. It has a lot of really fantastic character moments and beats that shouldn't be, considering what it is. They do a lot of really careful groundwork on the character to set up motivations, themes, things of that nature that I think work. But ultimately, it's all building to something that I don't particularly care about. So by the end of the film, it's bleh for me. But the journey there, you know, it's got moments. The production design, the costumes, some of the music, the direction. There's vision behind this movie, and there's kind of a lot of creative forces at work that are kind of inspiring to look at. And I think just the very theme of what it is sets a lot of people off, and you know, fair enough, I'm one of those people, but it's pretty good. It just kind of falls flat right at the end for me.
Falls flat right off a cliff, one might say.
Well, let's get straight into that, because I've got some stuff to say there. I thought that opening, you know, we start at Estella or Cruella's birth and get a very quick kind of montage, and then very quickly her way too good in a movie mother figure is very kind of expectantly killed. But the fact that it's Dalmatians that do it, and the fact of like at that moment in the movie, you are expecting like the movie to devolve into this, but I had no idea it would happen so quickly, and I was laughing hysterically. I thought it was one of the funniest, one of the most unintentional, funniest movie moments that I've seen in a while on like the Happening level of funny in some way. Like, I just couldn't tell. Like, they're definitely not playing any of it for laughs. It's an emotional, dramatic scene with slow motion and CGI dogs, but they're still trying to go for it. And the character that they kill is kind of so sweetly and succinctly performed and executed that it feels kind of awful that they do it to her. But it's still hilarious. I don't know why. It's just because of what you know, yeah? Is that all it is? Yeah.
No, the reason why it's so hysterical is because it's like, we're doing a prequel of Cruella, who wants to skin baby dogs, Dalmatians. She wants to skin 101 of them into a dress. So it feels so insane to be like, all right, 10 minutes in, a mum. She loves her mum. But Dalmatians murder her. So the Dalmatians have it coming. We're going to humanize her. And if she skins some Dalmatians in this movie, you're going to be like, well, they killed her mum. That's like, it's like classic hero origins where they're like, oh, well, the villain is worse than the hero because the villain murdered her mum with dogs. It's just, it is so insane to me. There is such a dramatic, intense, visual element to the fact that it's like not just killing the mum, it's they fucking run at her and like kick her, like the dogs jump in the air and kick her off a bridge. She falls like she's Gollum or Sherlock and Moriarty. Like, it's got such intense visual flair. It is absolutely insane. I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like, when I first watched this movie, I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't believe what they did. I never saw it coming. I was so swept up with just the first opening scene. She's just like, your name's Estella, not Cruella. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Oh God, origin. She's born with the black and white hair. Like, it was already just firing on all cylinders. And I was expecting it just to be...
It kind of feels like exactly what, we expected it to be at its worst in that opening. I think. The opening is so bad to the point where the principal is like, I'm putting a blot on your resume and on like her like school record, and the record is like all white and he's putting black dots all over it, but not all over it like succinctly. It's kind of spotted like Dalmatian spots. Like, it's aggressively, painfully badly written. The narration just straight off the bat. I reckon Emma Stone is always amazing. She's always one of the best things in any movie she's in. But that opening narration, she's like, oh God, we're starting here when the baby's born. And I'm just like, straight off the bat, I'm like, this is almost unwatchable. But then after the dog kicking murder mother scene, I'm like, oh man, if this is going to be this crazy, I'm all in. Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, the movie then kind of goes, actually, we don't really want to be a Cruella movie at all. We just kind of want to do a fashion movie with her mostly just being like, look at my dress, look at my other dress, and having this dynamic.
Which kind of is, I think, maybe all you can do with that character that isn't, just doing 101 Dalmatians or thereabouts. Like, watching her or seeing how she became that, I kind of understood that. So when they started doing it, and I must say, executing it with such style and flair and with, pretty spectacular costumes and production design and even the camera, the camera moves around so much in this movie. It feels like the director really kind of knew what he wanted to make, but it's completely at odds with other parts of the film where it feels like hacky, exactly what you would expect Disney live action remake trash. So it's really kind of a mixed bag, and it is almost as good as it is bad.
I 100% agree. I think, because I rewatched it just before we recorded this, because I saw it way back when it first got released, but I think I had more issues with those shoehorned in 101 Dalmatians kind of little moments. This time, I kind of just like, I don't know, I kind of embraced it. I reveled in it. There's like a moment where one of her henchman buddy pals pulls up in a car and he's like, did you bloody know what this car's called, man? It's called Devil. And the guy's like, it's actually DeVille. DeVille, like Cruella de Vil. And then she just kind of looks at the camera and is pretty much like, I like the sound of that. And I'm like, yeah, do it all. This is so bad. I love it.
Just give brief pause because I need to insert a clip right here.
Trent Steele, Max Power.
Oh, hey, great name.
Yeah, isn't it? I got it off a hairdryer.
I like a man who can poke fun at himself.
And that clip is Homer Simpson getting the name Max Power off a hairdryer, which is exactly the same thing that happens in this movie. Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's exactly the same. My mind kind of went to the Han Solo origin story that had kind of just as egregious, but I found that really kind of like the low point of the film. Where he's like, Han, what's your last name? And he's like, I don't have a bloody last name. And it's like, Han, it looks like you're by yourself. It's a Solo. And it's like, oh, that is one of the worst lines ever put on film. But, you know, so this one to me, I don't know. I think there's something about the energy, the acting, what this film kind of is at its core, which is this really ambitious kind of insane movie that's really about like a mother-daughter dynamic as they kind of, and like that mentor-student kind of thing. Like there's an early on fashion scene where she's like built a dress for Emma Thompson, the Queen, Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep character.
Who does a great job, I must say. Yeah.
Such a great job. And she like cuts off the sleeves or something of the dress, and she cuts Emma Stone's hand or finger or something, and it pulls up this, you know, blood and stuff, and then she just looks at it and goes, red. Actually, let's get this dress in red. And it's like, oh, she's cold and heartless and all this stuff. And then Emma Stone's like conflicted, and Emma Thompson walks away. But then Emma Stone has this like smile where she's like, she likes my work. And that dynamic and that kind of need for approval from someone that is horrific and brutal and challenges them and makes them a better creator and all these kind of things. A lot of that I actually found like surprisingly powerful and really interesting. And part of me is kind of like, oh, imagine if they were just like, we've made a punk Devil Wears Prada movie and we've called it Two Women Fighting About Dresses or whatever, or like, you know, just dresses or some kind of title that's better. I didn't think of one, I should have earlier. But they felt like maybe they almost had a script for that. But then someone's like, but we need to Joker this. We need to Maleficent this. We need to give them some kind of property so that they go and see it.
They said, how about the De Vil Wears Prada? And then someone at Disney just saw dollar signs and they ran with that idea.
I wish it was called that. That's so good. Oh my god. All right. Just so you guys know, he cut out 15 minutes of me laughing uncontrollably. That is amazing. But it does really feel like that. It feels like, you know, when you hear that, like, there are certain movies where they're like, this was actually a script for this other movie, and then we just kind of
10
slapped on
Cloverfield Lane.
Oh my god, yeah, that 100%. But honestly, the worst part about all of this kind of like, we need to IP it so people watch, I don't know if I'm going to go straight out and see the day it comes out a movie just about fashionistas and dresses and stuff. Like, I don't know if that trailer, without them being like, also it's about Cruella, who skins dogs in the future, and are we going to do anything to actually build up that character and somehow make you sympathize, but are we going to actually lead into that character at all? And I don't know, I watched this straight away. I was super intrigued. I'm like, what the hell are they going to do? There's 3 CGI dogs in the trailer.
Imagine, Jax, if instead of pushing her mum off a cliff, she had to watch as a pack of Dalmatians ravaged and tore apart her mother. And obviously, it's a Disney film, so you can't see the brutality, but you could creatively cut around it. And a child, you know, that influential period where trauma really deeply affects people, to see, and there's this kind of good bad mother dynamic going on too, which is very funny because we also watched Spider-Man 1, which has the good bad father dynamic, which is kind of equally at play, but we'll get to that. But I thought that if they had just used the dogs as dogs actually do horrific things in real life, then, and I know it's not going to be as cinematic and glorious as pushing someone off a cliff, but it's also not going to be as hilarious, yeah? I mean...
Yeah, for sure. I think that maybe the main issue that I probably have, like, because this movie is really entertaining when it's doing big montages where she's putting down a bunch of trash, then the trash truck drives away and she's on the side of it and all the trash turns into a giant dress and all these kind of montage bits that are really fun. But then the movie has little moments where it's like, you know, she goes like, ho, 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 wouldn't those dogs look glorious in a dress? And then he's like, are you joking? And she's like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm evil. Maybe I'm not. But it's always a bit kind of like, because we know that in the future, if this really is a actual prequel and not just some weird spin-off universe where it's like, what if Cruella, but maybe she's not actually a skin-murdering fashionista kind of thing.
But then why are we doing all this? What's the point?
Just because of IP and just getting people like me to watch their movie called Cruella from that curiosity kind
Cruella is iconic because of that fact. Like, the imagery of her and what it represents. We spoke briefly before we started recording about whether we'd seen 101 Dalmatians, and I think there's like an animated and a live action, and I've definitely seen it when I was young, but I can't remember what I've seen and what I haven't. But I have, you know, very clearly burnt in my memory the imagery and that song Cruella de Vil. And you know exactly what it's all about. So if you're going to take that and use it and kind of go so far in some places with this movie, but then kind of dance around that aspect in a strange way, I don't know. At some point they have to confront the reality of what it is, but they want to not have their cake and not eat it. I don't know what the... That is a really good point. They are essentially using the IP for money, for people to get in, and then they completely bail on any idea of it. There is a moment in this film where the three evil murder mum Dalmatians eats this locket that's like an essential part of the story. And I remember thinking, oh my God, is she actually going to skin one of these dogs to get this locket? Because she clearly really wants to get this locket. And I was like, my endorphins were off. I'm like, oh, this movie is crazy. She's going to actually kill a dog. And they're going to be like, but it was justified. They killed her mum. And I'm going to be like, what? Oh my God, this movie's insane. And then they're just like, wait till it poops it out. And I'm like, oh, of course. And then there's this really, really cringy bit after a really great bit where she kind of puts this dress together, and then the dress is like locked in a cabinet, and there's all these, you know, heist moments, boom, 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 boom. Then all the dresses of the villain are ruined, and then everyone runs out, and then they run into the street, and she's got this big rock concert going on, and she's like got the song where I'm gonna get the lyrics wrong, but it's something like, now I want to be a dog, or something like that. And it's just her being like, something dog, like, I want to be a dog, like all this singing to do with dog. And then Emma Thompson's character's like, she killed my dogs and made them into a coat. And it's like, it's essentially doing it. And then later on, when she meets that, the super fashion guy at the little fashion store, he's like, oh my God, did you really do it? And she's like, no, of course I didn't do it. What am I, some kind of psycho monster that skins puppies into coats? And I'm like, but you will be, won't you? Like, what, this is, so it's, I don't know, I kind of love watching it, but yeah, really at its core, this movie completely misses what it could be with this really interesting, dark not thriller, but like, you know, this really interesting story of like taking someone who isn't evil and then slowly battering them down into someone who's going to want to do something crazy through their creative... Because she's like a mad genius. She's like doing crazy punk dresses and everyone's loving her work. And that twisting it into something like quite evil at the end would be a completely different film. Not a Disney film, but I think that would be an amazing film. But this film is quite PG in the end. And it's mostly just... I think if the performances with Emma Stone and Emma Thompson weren't so strong, I probably would have a lot more issue with it. But I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed watching what it was. And they're using a lot of the iconography. Like there's a moment towards the end where she's been killed, you know, but she's not dead. And she gets every single person to come to this gala dressed with her black and white hair. Yeah, and there's a really amazing moment where Emma Thompson kind of looks up at the top of the stairs, down at like 100 people, and they're all dressed like her, and it's
it's quite a moment, and she's kind of hidden in the crowd, and there's some stuff in it that I really liked visually, but yeah, I don't know.
I really like that kind of fashionista / villain thing that they play with throughout the movie, and watching it escalate from pickpocketing and then using devious kind of costume making skills to further elaborate and then ultimately these enormous theatrical performance piece heist type things.
Yeah.
I love where it starts. I love how it develops. I love how it's executed and visualized, and I think that is the strongest stuff in the film by far.
For sure, yeah.
And maybe the best moment in the movie with the moth eggs. Is that what they are? They're moths?
Yeah. She gets like these things from South America or something, and they look like kind of little gems or something. But then they're just like eggs for the moths or something? Or
yeah,
cocoons?
or they locusts or I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're locusts, yeah.
Yeah, and they all burst out, and yeah, I thought that was really... That's kind of like taking a villainous if you're going to do an origin story about Cruella de Vil and then have her execute this plan in a bitter rivalry with someone that she kind of, weirdly admires and looks up to, and then ultimately becomes, in a sense. That stuff's all really good. And it's just surprising that there's all these other beats that are just so lazy in one note. One other thing I thought was interesting was that we've talked a lot on this podcast about kind of, there's like a language to cinema, and you use certain kind of visual looks or color grades to denote maybe a certain period in time or an aesthetic or whatever it is. This movie really uses the kind of 1920s to 40s filmmaking aesthetic, but it's set in the 70s, which I found interesting. We've got kind of 70s costumes and cars, and but it kind of feels like it's an older film for most of it, Doesn't really... If you say 70s period piece film, you don't think of Cruella, but it is absolutely that. It's like a 70s punk, in the midst of the punk revolution during that period. And it's using all that music from the era too. But it's just interesting that they've got that kind of faded sepia, washed out, almost Captain America 1 aesthetic. Do you know what I mean? Or...
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Like, to the point where, like, with her two henchmen, best friend, buddy, little crime thief kind of guys, I got a real, like, old school kind of Oliver Twist kind of sense, where it's like that really old 1890s, 1920s kind of thing. And it much more feels like that than a 70s film. I didn't even remember what era it is. I think right at the top of the episode I said 80s punk, because I was just like,
yeah, you're pretty
I don't
close.
know exactly when it's
it was
set,
in
but
full
it does
swing in the
feel
80s,
more...
so yeah, it would,
right,
yeah.
But it does really feel like that kind of old, kind of timey feeling. I think the aesthetic of this movie, like, there's some shots in it, and it's just quite beautiful to see, like, them kind of realize this world. But it is that kind of mix of things, because there's some stuff in it that does really have that kind of old school feeling. But I quite liked the aesthetic of the movie. Like, visually, I found it really appealing. And not just like, look at all the dresses, which a lot of the middle act is, but just the whole aesthetic of what it looks like. There's like her royal castle kind of mansion thing. And there's some big epic shots with, like, it's all big CGI cliffs and all that stuff. But I really liked the kind of grandiose feeling it was.
You know what it kind of reminded me of? If like Baz Luhrmann didn't do cocaine. Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. 100%, yeah. Oh, man. I'm just imagining Baz Luhrmann's Cruella, and that's a frenetic nightmare.
Oh, yeah. So, like, this already has so much energy, it would just be put to the absolute max. Like, he's something else, Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah. So, you mentioned the soundtrack. So, I Googled it. There is 33 needle drops, and they are fast, and they're quick, and I don't know, part of me is like, that's way too many, it's too much. Every single scene, it's kind of almost like, was this scene good? I don't know. put a great song, like a really classic 70s, 80s kind of song, and just put them all. There's kind of no mood to the whole thing. Like, I quite enjoy the one actual original song, but...
Well, you've got on one end of the spectrum Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and then on the other end of the spectrum, the 2017 Suicide Squad film, or
Yes,
2016. And
That's
I guess,
exactly what I had noted, yeah.
yeah, and this is I think closer to the Suicide Squad, but nowhere near that. You know, kind of
that's
random
disgusting,
and
yeah.
senseless and meaningless and just like hollow and shallow, and you know, there's some more thought, but it's not quite, you know, a Guardians 1 where the soundtrack is like kind of the beating heart of the movie in a lot of ways and sets the tone in really spectacular ways. This feels like my note is just about the soundtrack. I wrote, the soundtrack is interesting, a bit much.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and there's songs I like, and there's sequences that are really well thought out. I think there's like a long tracking shot when they're going through the little loft that they live in the top of the abandoned building, and it's to a very like catchy, jingly tune that's really nice to listen to, and it gives that momentum to the scene I think it requires. And there's, you know, sometimes it's used to great effect, and sometimes it just feels like they've pasted a lot of tracks in to, I don't know, perhaps speed the pace up.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same. I feel like it is, I don't know, it really works for a lot of it, but I did feel like at times I'm just like, man, we are just flying through our greatest hits of this era. Like, just, it almost felt like they're just like, we have like a bunch of budget left. What are we going to use it on? And they're just like, I don't know, more songs. Put in more songs. Because I quite liked the original song we get that kind of gets sprinkled throughout in kind of the emotional Cruella moments. And it's played right at the start and I think right at the end. And I really like that. So, I don't know. Part of me is just like, maybe if we just had a bit more original music in there, that would have worked for me more. Just because it did just stand out to me. Like, there was a point halfway where I'm like, my God, we are just skipping through songs like madmen right now.
What you ideally want when you're doing a soundtrack like this is to pair a song so perfectly with the scene that it becomes, you cannot unattach the two. And I think that, and that happens sometimes. Peter Quill dancing and, you know, like to that song, or Reservoir Dogs, Stuck in the Middle with You. Like, there are songs that become just iconically attached to a scene or a moment. And even, say, Jackie Brown. There's a fantastic song that plays at the beginning, which for me is just like the anthem of that movie. Street Life, I think it's called. But it's absolutely a phenomenal song, and it fits the character, and it fits the movie, and it's just like, I hear it, and I just, you know, feel like I'm with those characters again. And they fit together so well. And there's not... It almost gets there sometimes, maybe, but never quite more than just, oh, this is a good song. Because
I think that you're 100% spot on. It kind of, to me, kind of washes over with just, man, that was a lot of great music played. And it doesn't, to me, like, I think the standout soundtrack to me of picking songs into a moment is Spider-Verse, where that soundtrack to me is just, I'll never hear one of those songs and not think about that movie ever again. Like, ever, for the rest of my life. It works so well for that movie for me. And this, to me, if I hear a lot of the songs, they're songs that I've heard in a lot of other movies. It kind of reminded me a bit of like when you see a Vietnam War film, like Kong Skull Island. A lot of those songs don't make me go, oh, remember Kong Skull Island? I just go, remember every Vietnam movie ever made? And I think this kind of had a bit more of that. But, I mean, you know, whatever. It didn't really ruin anything for me.
No, it's not obnoxiously bad or anything.
No, it's just noteworthy.
Yes.
All right. Kieran, there's a lot of CGI dogs in this. What did you think? So many CGI dogs. Sometimes I'm like, is that dog real? But a lot of the time I was like, that CGI dog looks really good. Then the next shot I'm like, oh, that doesn't look as good.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, very hit and miss for me.
My thoughts exactly. CGI dogs are a mixed bag. It's probably the best. I mean, there's so much of it that you have to kind of give them credit because there's not many shots in the movie without CGI dogs. Like, it's so much of the movie. I would love to see the breakdown of the budget. how much went to CGI dogs, because it's
A
a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
I think, they veer back and forth. There's sometimes they just really nail the lighting and the texture of the fur and the movement of the dogs, but ultimately I think they slip into what a lot of people do with it's an animated character, essentially, and it performs as such, and something is lost there. There's something like quaint and I don't know, cool about having a real dog in a movie and getting it to perform and being a part of it, and then maybe enhancing that with some CGI. Yeah. But it blows out the time. So
it's quite interesting, because when I first watched this movie a couple months ago when it first came out, I then went back and watched 101 Dalmatians, the live action one. And one of the very opening scenes of that movie is a real Dalmatian dog, like, doing all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, that dog's the best actor I've ever seen in my life. Like, Robert De Niro, get the fuck out of here. Like, this dog is better than you at acting. I can't believe they got it to do what it was doing. It was incredible stuff. And the rest of the movie is like bad Home Alone, but dogs, and those two henchmen are terrible. And it's a bad movie with lots of real animals. But there are some moments, especially early on, when you're still kind of, the novelty of acting dogs isn't lost on you, but really exceptional stuff. So they probably could have done it, but then there's a lot of stuff in this, like right off the bat, the little girl jumps on a big swinging fashion thing and swings up in the air, and she's like, "Whoa!" And the dogs are like jumping in the air, and they're all like, "Rah!" Like snarling, and there's spit flying off their teeth and stuff, and they're drop kicking women off balconies and stuff like that. There's a moment where the dog like takes a shit, and we see the dog's face, and he's like, got that awkward, like, I can't believe these two men are looking at me as I'm taking a shit. And it's like acting like a human, not like a dog. So I guess that's what they wanted to go for. And so you have to CGI a dog to make it look like a human taking a shit in front of men, rather than doing a dog who just does it. Because the dog doesn't care, So I think they went for a vibe, and they just kind of flat out went, apparently they did have dogs on set. I did give it a cheeky little Google beforehand. Oh, yeah. But just for reference and stuff. And I think maybe there are some elements throughout the movie. And I think sometimes it is just CGI enhancement. But I don't know, immediately when I think about like animals like this, the standout at the moment for me is in Birds of Prey. Harley Quinn has this hyena. Yeah. And the hyena, for the whole movie, the only thing I can remember about that movie now is that hyena looked real to me. I was just like, that's a real animal. She's like kissing a real hyena in a bathtub or whatever. Like, it's crazy. And what they did is they put all this stuff on a dog and slightly enhanced it with CGI, if I recall correctly. And I don't know, to me, that's outstanding. It looks incredible. But
that's the gold standard.
100%. At least for me. I mean, maybe I've just not seen a bunch of other good stuff, but I think about the trailer of that Harrison Ford and the CGI dog in the Snow movie, and that dog looked terrible,
And that
but
poor
yeah, the
man
hyena
that had to perform. Have you seen all the behind the scenes?
Oh, yeah, I have. The behind the scenes is so funny. I'll never watch that movie, but those behind the scenes are so funny. Oh, it looks so weird. He's like petting the man's ear and stuff. Oh,
I can't think of another great CGI animal. I guess there's like Aslan in Narnia, but that probably hasn't aged as well as...
I have seen the pilot of the Golden Compass series Dark Materials, and I remember the polar bear looking real good. But maybe that's just the trailer. I don't know. Maybe it's not in the pilot. But I remember that looking like really good and being like, what the hell? That polar bear is awesome at acting.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say, do you have any other main things? Because I have one main last thing to discuss.
My big main thing, I guess two or three. So the director, I think the director did, for the most part, a really good job. This is the director of a movie called I, Tonya, which I thought was also pretty good. I actually prefer I, Tonya quite a bit to this. Yeah, very good. With I, Tonya as well, there are a couple of moments in the movie. The entire movie is incredibly strong. Really, really great stuff. but they did digitally replace a real figure skater with Margot Robbie's head. And it does lead to some unintentional, hilarious results at times.
I'm pretty sure we've discussed it at some point, and I just Googled those scenes. Because I have definitely seen that scene you're talking about, and I have not seen the movie. And I remember being like, oh, might have even been on a corridor video maybe, where they like break down it, the visual effects. But I remember being like, oh, that looks really, oh God!
And the movie's so good. It's so well made, and the performances are fantastic. I'd highly recommend. You would love it. I think Sebastian Stan's in it.
Awesome.
And there's another big actress who plays the mum who does a great job, but I can't remember her name. But yeah, definitely, this is a director to watch. He's got, I, Tonya was successful. This one hopefully will be to some extent, and it will propel him to hopefully make something maybe a little bit more small scale.
There's a lot fighting against. Like, I think this director probably did the best Cruella prequel that doesn't involve actually being a real prequel about a dog skinning murderer,
I
that
think
dances
so.
around those lines, and it almost, it really does feel like another film. But I think with all of those elements and thinking about what, honestly, Disney are probably just like, we're not doing that. You can joke about it. You can have her be like, maybe, and all that stuff, and have suggestions and this and that. But considering, I think this film is surprisingly good.
And lastly, I'll just say that the absolute standout, the best part of the movie, the production design and the costumes are just like next level. They are.
Kiss, yeah.
It put it up against another recent live-action Disney remake, Aladdin. Yeah, the costumes are nowhere near as good, and they do not. Yeah, the production design isn't as good. I mean, it's a very different aesthetic, different period, all that kind of stuff. But there's just a very clear disparity in the quality of work coming out of two $200 million pictures,
I was going to say, I actually think it's a really interesting comparison, because I think Aladdin, if it had this production quality, we'd all be like, I kind of like that. Like, how good did it just feel to be in that world? Because that has the opportunity to have elaborate, amazing costumes, but I don't really remember anything from that movie except for being like, it was fun, it was good. Whereas this, it's like there are so many dresses and things that I really don't really care about in real life that I'm just like visually like, wow, that was cool. I like that,
Yeah, absolutely. They say with something like Doctor Who, for example, which traverses all of time and space, and there's a bit of world building that needs to be done in each episode. Like, the costumes and stuff, when they really nail a certain aesthetic, it goes a long way to just getting you into the story. With anything, really. And
sure.
This is, a tier above a lot of what's being put in movies, I think. It just, real artistry on display, and a lot of appreciation for that. I imagine, I don't know, this movie came out this year? Right? Not last year?
Yeah, earlier this year, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll probably get nominated, hopefully. It's.
I mean, definitely. Maybe someone will be like, oh, actually, what about this one? I'm like, oh, yeah, that feels pretty good. But for me, this wins all the costume and makeup shit. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's really, really fun. And
bad ideas, because this movie has a lot of bad ideas, and a lot of the time, sometimes a bad idea executed really, really well makes it good, Like,
for
sometimes it's not even about if a thing is a good or bad idea. This movie is a bad idea, but just executed for the most part at a level which makes it entertaining and fun to watch, and does character work and has themes and is tying all of the characters together in an interesting way. And it's just a shame that it's inevitably heading off a cliff, so to speak.
Oh, well, Kieran, that's a pretty tasty segment to get into the finale, because this film starts off where the evil woman has her dogs kick the mum off a cliff. But then, twist! Actually, that's Cruella's mum kicking her stepmum off a cliff with Dalmatians. And then we get a very classic finale where it's like, now I'm on the bridge, and are you going to kick me off the bridge? And then Emma Thompson's like, no, I won't. I'm going to hug you because we're mother-daughter. Oh. And then she's like, actually, trick, bitch. Push. Pushes her off the cliff, and it's like...
Parachute dress. Yeah?
Oh my god, the parachute dress is the second funniest thing I've seen in a film for a very long time. First, it's mum off a cliff by dogs, and then it's like daughter off the cliff, but twist, my dress. The whole movie's thing is, how good are my dresses? Now my dress is a parachute. Because I was just like, oh, wait, what? How? What? She's off the cliff. Like, how? And then it cuts to her funeral, and then she's like, but actually, parachute dress. And I just think, what the hell, dude? Like, who the hell thought that was, like, an appropriate thing to put in the movie? There's so much actual, like, non-ironic tension at that point. And, like, it's the showdown between, she's like, I know that I'm your real daughter, and you tried to have me murdered as a baby, but and then murdered, and, like, as an adult in a fire, and all this murder talk. And then Emma Thompson's, like, so wrapped up in the scene of murdering her daughter again that she doesn't notice that 250 people walk out of a mansion and are, like, 50 meters behind her. So many of them would have been opening and closing doors, bustling and stuff. No one knows that it's, like, you know, no one's like, oh, everyone go real quiet. There's about to be a performance piece outside. They're just like, go outside. It's still a party, but now go outside. It is so insane and so stupid. The movie does kind of... It's so bad. It's a terrible ending. But I kind of love that it's just like, whatever. Don't think about that. Screw you for thinking about things at this point in the movie. Just embrace parachute dress and the insane irony of her pushing the daughter and the mum off the cliff and all this stuff. I really liked it, but for all the wrong reasons. It's a really silly finale. And then she just rocks up in a car, and it's like, Estella was actually Cruella. And she's pointing to her, and then she's like, no, I'm not. Why would you possibly think that? Because this is a Clark Kent Superman situation, and if you think about it for 10 seconds, just look at you. You look the same. Like, What are you kidding me? But don't think about any of that. It's like Superman. Don't think about that. That's not the point. Just embrace the wacky and insane vibes of the scene. And then the movie's like, actually, you thought we were going to end with that bang? No, we're going to end with a more insane bang. Those two side characters, Roger and Anita, well, actually, they're the Roger and Anita from 101 Dalmatians, and she's going to give them puppies in a weird, like, setup for a sequel that's going to be the 101 Dalmatians movie. Like, that post-credit scene is just intolerably, like, just... I found it very funny, but for all the wrong reasons, once again. It's, like, sequel bait. It's very Marvel. And it's also like, wait, are we going to do a sequel? Like, what the hell? What's the sequel going to be? She's not going to be Cruella. Like, she can't be. This movie has defied all those character traits the whole time. If anything, Emma Thompson was kind of the real Cruella of this movie. In terms of, in the future... I can imagine Emma Thompson skinning dogs, but I can't imagine Emma Stone's Cruella actually doing that. All
right, well, then this is a good spot to, I think, unless you have any more points, close it out with the question.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want the Cruella de Vil sequel with Emma Stone, full-blown Cruella, skinning dogs and, fashion exploits and shenanigans?
I absolutely want to see a movie that starts with her being Glenn Close and just being like, looking at a dress and being like, what if they were dogs? Oh, dogs are too coarse. What if they were Dalmatian puppies? And then just cackling like a psycho, just cackling away. And then the camera, then we cut to the other characters. Because that's Glenn Close's character. She just cackles and screams and drives the car madly and just yells at the henchmen for not catching dogs. And all she wants to do is skin puppies. And I would love to just completely jump the shark and see that movie. Because it would be ridiculous and insane. And I would love it so much. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, sure. I would. I don't know how you do it. I would actually wouldn't mind if they just waited a while and let Emma Stone age up a bit. I think that would even help the whole thing, Yep. If they did another one in 20 years, that'd be cool.
Oh, wow. Proper wait.
Yeah. But I guess they kind of implied that the events will take place shortly thereafter, considering they have dogs.
Yeah, but they're puppies, aren't they? She gives, her 3 dogs make puppies, and now they have to grow up. So maybe, 5-10 years' time. I think there is a sequel announced, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that'd be
I'm pretty
interesting. Sure. Yeah. I saw that The Rock said that they're working on a Jungle Cruise sequel, another Disney
No.
property that...
What the hell? See, I'm not interested in that at all. But a Cruella 2 movie, because it's so insane, and they absolutely didn't really pay off the Cruella. Like, it doesn't make me go, oh, yeah, I now understand how she's going to want to skin puppies for a dress.
Yeah, if anything, this film makes the opposite point that, you know, like
she'd
this
never
character...
do that.
Yeah, she's embraced a darker side, but she's also not completely unhinged. It doesn't seem, you know, like to the point where this kind of iconic evil character is when we meet her.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, she's not a psycho, evil, dog-murdering person. She's just bad and a little bit mad. You know, as she proclaims herself. But not an evil person. Not really, yeah.
All right, well, tune in for when we do the Cruella sequel.
I'm so
I guess it'll
excited.
just be called De Vil, yeah?
Oh my god, that's awesome. Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
know if it is, to be honest. It just seemed
Yeah,
like the
it'll
most
probably
obvious.
just be called Cruella 2. Or Cruella de Vil, maybe. But I think Cruella 2 just for... I think this film did pretty well, you know, considering.
Yeah. All right, well, let's leave it there. Thank you all for listening. Or if you're on YouTube watching, if you're not on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video and share our stuff. And we have an enormous back catalogue of content that you can go through where we talk movies just like this. You can also find Spoiler Talk on TikTok and Instagram. And please follow BlackRock Broadcasting, which is our broadcasting network that we do with Jax and his brother Tim. It's linked with their podcast, The Amazing Two Brothers, One Pilot, which has been going for a full year now. You just celebrated your one-year anniversary. What do you have coming up?
Oh, coming up, we just did an episode on a Australian TV series about football because the grand final's coming out, and that was a joyous event to watch and to record. That was insane. I can't believe it. Oh my god. Just, yeah, listen, it's, if you like football or you don't, it's a good episode. Real fun.
Nice, nice. All right, well, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Catches.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.